I'm very happy to have with us Evan Davis, who's the economics editor of BBC News, which means he's pretty much the chief don, I'd say, of BBC News in terms of economics news. All of it all the news goes through him. Yeah, and we didn't pay a huge amount of fee because he's only an economics journalist rather than a newsreader. Yeah. He's also a presenter of a business reality program called Dragon's Den, and also in his spare time has authored 2 books called 2 dictionaries, I might add. So if any economic terms you're not clear of, I'm sure he's going to be able to clear them up for us. So ladies and gentlemen, without taking further amount of your time, please put your hands together to thank and welcome Evan Davis.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Shano. I'm incredibly happy to be here, and I'm happy for 3 reasons. One is that it's actually a very well-organised event, and I get involved in the odd event, and normally they pile on emails and all their anxieties and stresses about their event are sort of passed on to the person who they drag in to be chairperson, and Shahana has done none of that. It's been most meticulously organised. I'm also happy because one of the things that happens if you're economics editor of the BBC is that the population at large think you're someone to whom they can write their general complaints about capitalism and their ideas for alternative structures. So I would say about 5 to 10% of the letters I get are essentially redesigns of capitalism and what's wrong with it and how it could be reinvented along the lines of the author's note. Often these are quite long letters, often they're books, often they're in green ink. And by and large, some of them are mad, some of them are bad, and a lot of them I don't have time to read. But I'm always interested, genuinely interested, in big visionary critiques of the system on which I end up reporting so monotonously so often. And I really am interested to hear actually what we're going to hear tonight, the critique, if you like, or a critique of a lot of what I end up reporting on. I'm also thirdly glad to be here because I actually find I have a confession, not to be taken outside these walls, I have very little understanding of monetary economics, even though I did a paper at Oxford called Monetary Economics. And it's all gone, I don't remember it, and our 2 speakers both do understand it, and understand it very well. So I might actually learn something. Before we get going, just actually how many of you would you say, work in banking, finance, or the city in some form or another? How many of you are basically finance people? Okay, most of you. How many of you work in something that would be recognisably Islamic finance of one kind or another? So a relatively small number. So the average person in this audience is basically someone working in a non-Islamic bank, basically. Okay, good. The format for tonight is fairly straightforward. We're going to have 15 minutes from Tariq, then 15 minutes from Lord Brian Griffiths, and then we're going to open it up to questions, in which questions or comments, preferably not speeches, but mini little speeches, so we'll have a fairly open discussion. Basically, we'll keep it fairly informal, and we will absolutely wind up before 10:30. Let me, for those who don't, before 8:30. I'm sorry. Before 8:30. I'm fixed on the sort of 10 o'clock, news at 10 mindset, so I get very much. Let me, for those of you who have not who do not know them, introduce our 2 speakers. Our second speaker, because I'm doing them in reverse order, is Lord Griffiths, Brian Griffiths. Famous, really, in a number of circles, for being head of Margaret Thatcher's policy unit in the 1980s, involved in privatisation and deregulation in that era. Today, famous for being the vice chairman of Goldman Sachs. Has written extensively on business ethics and the like, very much from a Christian perspective. In fact, I think as chairman of the Archbishop